What in the world is happening over at Warner Brothers with their shelving of the recently completed Wile Coyote movie? We're going to talk about that on today's episode. Then we'll get to our case, in which we discuss gaming around the baby. How much is too much? Maybe it's not enough. Stay tuned for our verdicts. What you are listening to is real. The parties involved are not cool. They are actual geeks with a case pending in the court of public opinion. The party's case has been dismissed, and the dispute will be settled here on our podcast. There will be no lawyers. There will be no witness testimony. The judge's decisions are final.
Hello, I'm Judge Ivan.
I'm Judge Jonathan, and this is Geeks on Trial. Today's case, Leveling Up Baby.
Welcome to Geeks on Trial. This is the podcast where we settle petty disputes between actual geeks over movies, video games, board games, and more. If you'd like to submit your own geeky case for a future episode, you can email us at geeksontrial@gmail.com. You can also support the show over at patreon.com/geeksontrial for just a few bucks a month, and you'll gain early access to both our audio and our video episodes before they're released to the general public.
That's a great way to support us and show us that you care. Makes us feel good and makes you feel good.
And hey, the holiday season's coming up. You could probably, gift someone our Patreon. I think that's a thing you might be able to do.
Sure. It's a thing you could maybe do.
Right.
We haven't looked into it.
No, why would we?
This is a show about geeks. We like to talk about geeky subcultures and things that are in the news before we get to our cases. And this episode is no exception to that.
Oh, there's a lot in this case. Got to open up this case.
We're going to open the case and we're going to take out our first file of the week, which is I really wanted to talk to you, Ivan, about the recent goings-on over at Warner Brothers Discovery. In case you aren't aware, that's what they're called now.
That's okay.
We need you to get it right. It's Warner Brothers Discovery. It's both.
HBO Max? Is that all?
It's both. But don't say HBO. It's cleaner.
Right.
Now, there's a guy named David Zaslav. He is the former CEO at Discovery, and now he is the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. And he's been doing all kinds of boneheaded shit that nobody likes over there.
Sorry.
Namely, a few months back, we learned that there was a Batgirl movie and an animated Scooby-Doo movie, both of which that were completely finished films. And Zaslav decided for one reason or another that it wasn't worth spending the money to market and distribute ththose films. They were shelved and have not seen the light of day since. Now, and this past week, hold on now, there's more to the story. There's more, please. I know you're excited, but you gotta be patient. This last week, this happened again with the Wile E. Coyote movie, which has a name. I forget what it is because
we'll never know.
Release it. Which included John Cena and Will Forte. It's a live action animation hybrid, like Roger Rabbit style. Did the same thing. There was a little more outrage this time from the creatives working on the movie who were blindsided by this decision. And now they've announced that they are actually going to not distribute the movie themselves, but allow the movie to be shopped around to other studios to distribute. So basically they're willing to have someone else pay them to take it off their hands. And so we might see that movie, it turns out. Anyway.
Now, can you explain to the people at home, this is what I was going to say, I was going to cut you off. Can you explain to the people at home, and totally not me, what shelved means? What does shelved mean? It's a very...
Sure.
It's a film industry thing.
Is that an industry thing? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Essentially, it just means like what you think it means. It means it was put back on the shelf, and so never. They're not going to put it in theaters. They're not going to put it on streaming, in spite of the fact that this is a completed work of art that people spent years of their lives finishing. It's just sitting in a warehouse somewhere. I suppose these days it's
like a hard drive.
It's metaphorical.
Laptop. Yeah.
Right. But
now, how many?
Maybe there's a real.
So, do you know the reason why they do this? Because I found this out, and it's kind of ridiculous to me.
I mean, I know the reason. Theoretically, it's always going to come down to money.
So one of the reasons that was floating around is, well, the new head of Warner Brothers and Discovery, because when I think, because I didn't realize he was originally the head of Discovery, and now he took over a multi-billion-dollar, one of the first 8 movie production companies back in the day. So we're letting a guy who makes, Croc Hunter back in the day and greenlight shows like that take over movie franchises.
Crocodile Hunter's Animal Planet. That's not Discovery.
But I think they're all the same corporation.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know what's on Discovery Channel. Pawn Stars.
Aliens.
Pawn
History
Stars.
of the guy with the alien hair.
Right. You're letting this guy who created,
Ice Road Truckers.
basically trash TV is now taking over.
No, wait, that's History Channel? Yeah, I don't know. They all suck.
But anyway, but this guy who makes, daytime TV is taking over a historical movie production company, which just seems ridiculous to begin with. But, back in the day, they used to shelve movies all the time. A movie doesn't come out, they didn't want it. It just goes onto a shelf. Back in the day, it was actually a shelf. And we never saw this movie, and it never hit the light of day, or it never hit the news. But now with, social media, websites, all this kind of stuff, we know when a movie gets shelved, mainly from this company. Like, it's really big news when it's this corporation, and somehow it gets out when it's this corporation.
And normally when a movie would get shelved in the past, it's because it was a shitty movie.
Right.
And that didn't test well, or it was just like a super low budget thing, or sometimes like the studio would shut down or something before it got pushed to theaters.
Right. Or there was
end up on video,
controversy behind it or something, something
possibly
that actually mattered. And it was also, they tested it. Where, I feel like these new Warner Brother movies, they don't really test. It's just, this guy saw this movie and said, I don't like it. Or probably he probably never even saw it.
According to what I've read, at least Wile E. Coyote apparently tested very well. Everyone was saying this movie is really good. And again, we're not talking about, someone made Critters 7 and it was some piece of shit. This is... regardless of the quality, this is a Batgirl movie,
right?
And a Looney Tunes movie and a Scooby-Doo movie from the company that owns those characters,
right? It's not like a third-party company made this.
Yeah,
this was made
by
their
iconic
the
in-house
home of Bugs Bunny.
This is like if Disney had a Mickey movie and they were like, nah, nobody needs to see that.
Right.
It's crazy.
My thing is, fine, shelve it from going to theaters, but this is what streaming was built for. Streaming was so you can take anything that you have and just put it out there, but that's not what these streaming companies have been doing. They've been, cutting corners, getting rid of things. It's, it's a few gigs that people are going to view, and if they don't view it, it's not losing you any money. But the thing about money was they think it's going to do so poorly in the theaters that if they shelve it, they get a sizable tax write-off for these films. So the tax write-off is more money than they would potentially get in theaters. But you don't know that.
Right. That's the thing that to me makes no sense. Clearly he must have a team of accountants and lawyers telling him this, and they must know what they're saying a little bit. But you're going to tell me really that a Looney Tunes... Now, I know you could go back historically and say Looney Tunes Back in Action or whatever in 2005 with Brendan Fraser maybe didn't do that great. But... really a Wile E. Coyote movie with John Cena, it's not going to do at least okay. That's going to get people into the theaters if you market it right. I think.
But this is also the same company.
This is a movie that's finished. It's done.
Yeah, and this is the same company who greenlit and produced the second Space Jam movie.
Yes,
and that's a good movie. We're not going to shelve that one.
Also, during a time right now when, although the actor strike just ended, most of these studios are desperate for content because there's some gaps that need to be filled.
Well, that's where I was expecting, those two previous movies, the Catwoman movie and the Scooby movie, I was expecting them to come out.
Was that a joke or was it really Batgirl?
Oh, Batgirl, sorry. I expected them to come out because we don't have content. The writer's strike just ended, so there's going to be a gap, and the writers and actors strike just ended. So there's going to be a gap down the road of we don't have quality movies. Why not go into our backlogs and just, hey, these weren't going to make money anyway. Let's just see how much they'll make.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. They haven't, HBO hasn't, or Warner Brothers hasn't come out and said, a real explicit reason for it, but I just can't think of any explanation that would convince me.
And they never will.
Crazy to me.
Like, why would they?
Yeah.
This probably wasn't supposed to get out. It was probably somebody who worked there was like, hey, this, because think about it. If there's 3 movies that were leaked that were out, that were
well, they were announced. Like, we knew these movies were in production.
Like, how many other movies do you think they have on that quote unquote shelf that have just
certainly
never...
They can't be anything as high profile if they exist. I don't know, but like you said about social media, we're in a day and age where it's hard to hide. Like, I remember reading about this Wile E. Coyote movie. People were talking about the Batgirl movie because Brendan Fraser's in it. It was all this. I think maybe I'm crazy. I think Michael Keaton is in the Batgirl movie as Batman too. Like, it was kind of a big deal, and it's just not. It doesn't exist now.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, they promoted this movie, or they said this movie was coming out. Like, if you're not sure about a movie, then maybe don't announce it so early. Because that's another one of my gripes, that we get movie announcements like 4 years in advance for a movie that's not coming out.
I don't know about Batgirl. I think in this case, it's sometimes a movie announcement isn't like an announcement. It's like,
this could be greenlit.
Hollywood knows what John Cena's doing. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to find out he's making a movie.
Well, it's like back in the day, it was like, Variety would be like, oh, this movie's potentially getting made in studio, whatever.
Yeah. Box office, Big Bopper, coming to the Bip House.
Yep. See, that movie would get not shot. They would put that right out. It would go right on Netflix. So, but my other kind of gripe with this is with our government system and our tax IRS system, how much money are we giving them for tax write-offs of movies that could make money that they're just like, this because an average movie is like, what, $20 million to produce? How much money are they getting for a write-off to be like, oh, it's fine? That's insane to me. And
well, like, we don't need to get into if you really want to make it depressing, think about, it's probably, I would bet it's 100 more to the tune of $100 million for these movies.
For animation,
if not more, and you're talking about, or maybe somewhere probably in the range of like 80 to 100 million. It's just a guess off the top of my head,
right?
And if for a movie that's never going to be seen, now think about how many people could have been clothed and fed with that money,
right? Oh yeah, because that's a whole nother rant. Because the same quality of movies 20 years ago cost a quarter of that much. It's like, I always love when they're like, oh, this is an independent movie. Oh, how much did it cost to make? $10 million. No. Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith made Clerks with a credit card. It's like,
you're right. $10 million is a movie being $10 million now is a very low budget movie.
Well, it's like, what is it? Micro budget, low budget, indie? Like, there's a whole thing. But
like, even like the lowest of low horror movie is like $2 million.
Right.
It's like that's your kind of your minimum almost,
well,
unless it's like really indie.
Well, that's because Warner Brothers, the CEO and whatever, has to take their like 85% cut. Because
and you're also talking about marketing and whatever. Right.
But everything with this shelving thing, it's like there's no reason to. Does Warner Brothers have a streaming platform?
HBO, that's theirs.
So Max. Then why not just put it there?
I know, right? Well, remember also, this is the same thing they were doing also earlier this year, removing a bunch of their own shows because they don't want to pay the residuals, basically. They don't, like, if they have Westworld on their platform, they got to pay the actors when somebody watches it, and they decided, oh, it's not worth it. Give Westworld to somebody else, which it's the worst practice to me. It's anti-consumer. It feels like it should just be shooting themselves in the foot to not. The HBO platform doesn't host the show from HBO?
Right.
Like, that's insane.
Right.
What are you doing?
And it's basically
what are you
doing? I forgot what his last name is, but Adam Ruins Everything. He was basically saying that, like, they lied to us.
I think that's his legal last name.
Ruins Everything. Oh, one word.
Middle name Ruins.
Hello, Mr. Ruins Everything. How are you? They basically lied to us, and they're like, hey, streaming is going to be great. Sign up for this package, and you'll see every movie from the backlog and every Warner Brothers movie ever made. And that's just not true. There's thousands of movies that are just
that dream is dead.
Disappeared. Right.
That's why you got to buy this shit. By the way, I actually think it's one correction. He's Adam Ruins, but he married Jessica Everything. It's a hyphenated.
Oh, it's a hyphenated last name. Oh, it makes more
Adam
sense.
Ruins Everything. Yeah. So it's very upsetting. Like I said, the small silver lining is that the Wile E. Coyote movie they have deemed acceptable for someone else to maybe buy it. So we might hopefully we'll see it.
Insane to me.
But we get this guy out of there. And I also think we're starting to see with this Wile E. Coyote thing. I saw many more people behind the scenes coming out publicly and saying they're upset about this. And I think you can only do this so many times before people get pissed off about it.
Well, and also, like, when's the last time you saw a movie and there was like 8 different production companies tied to it? Like, Warner Brothers wasn't the only production companies behind these 3 movies. So, like, these other production companies... I don't know that,
but you're probably right.
aren't just, assuming.
You're just asking people to write in and correct you is all I'm saying.
That's fine. Hey, that's user, But, like,
right.
They're not... There's other people who worked on this movie who aren't getting their fair share. Like another, like a smaller production, like a Bad Robot, because they just kind of pop up everywhere.
Or not getting... Forget production company. Imagine... how excited you might be. Maybe I don't remember off the top of my head who did direct these movies, but but you're an actor. Maybe you're not. John Cena will be fine, but maybe you're somebody else. Maybe you're like a lesser known actor who's so excited. Yeah, you're in a John Cena movie, and then you find out one day we're just not going to release that.
Right.
Like that sucks. That's horrible.
Yeah.
It's
or whoever the directors were. Like if this is your big, John Cena's, this is your big time. No, you're a Wile E. Coyote. You're tying your name to a key character in the Warner Brothers history. No, sorry.
And it's a great premise for a movie, too. It just sounds like a funny movie. Like, I want to see it.
If it's trash, like I said, how many movies have they put out that were just pure shit?
Yeah, that's not a good argument. There's so many, for sure. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. It's really crazy. I mean, it's definitely this David Zaslav guy sucks, but... just in general, we're seeing this kind of trend with studios and streaming services, especially about things disappearing and not being able to watch them anymore.
What do you think the Warner Brothers would do if this was the case? Like,
I know what they do if they saw a cop coming. All right. So,
and cancel. Congratulations.
On that note, we need to get to today's case. Mm-hmm. We're pivoting from movies and our passion for that. We're going to switch to our passion about video games. Mm-hmm. Today's case comes to us from the internet. You can find a link in our episode description. Okay. Our defendant today is Chris. Chris is a daddy with a little baby boy. We're going to call that baby boy Anthony. And Chris is also, in addition to being a daddy, he's a gamer daddy. Oh. And he shares custody with his son's mother. They are not together, and sometimes... during his time with his son, he has some of the boys over and they get to gaming. And while this is taking place, little baby Anthony is hanging out, chilling in his crib or whatever. He's about 8 months old, by the way. And anytime someone's not actively gaming, they're interacting with the kid, entertaining him, making sure he's doing okay, what have you. But sometimes that's how he spends the afternoons. Now, the baby mama finds out about this arrangement, doesn't like it. She says that screen time could be harmful to baby Anthony, harmful towards his long-term development, and wants him to cut the gaming out when the baby is about. As dual judges here on Geeks on Trial, it's now our job to determine whether it's okay for Chris to be gaming as long as his baby is behaving, or if exposure to Mario will make him sorry, yo.
I quit.
Okay.
This is your show now.
I hope that laughter can be heard on audio because I couldn't hear anything, so it just sounds like dead air.
It was great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's showing up in my level. So you had a double rhyme there. You rhyme before.
I know.
You're pushing
it. I did that first rhyme, and I also was like, ooh, should I push that? Should I save that? Because did I just use my only rhyme? But then I came up with more rhymes.
You kept going. I'm not going to stop a rhyming, man.
Is that a song or something?
No.
Wait, what is that?
I don't know. It sounds good, right?
It really sounded like you were quoting something real.
That's
not going to stop a rhyming man.
Welcome to my life. Nothing is original that I ever say. So,
by the way, maybe relevant to the case to also say the gaming in question, according to Chris, tends to be like in the Switch side of things, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers. It's not. It doesn't sound like it's Mortal Kombat.
So he's a Switch daddy. Kind of like that.
He's a Switch daddy.
Mm-hmm.
He's bi-curious.
Oh, he switches it on. Anyway, so let me ask you this question. You and I were raised roughly the same era. We were 1989 babies. And how much, on a level of 1 to 10, how much TV did you watch? And
how much TV did I watch?
And how much screens were like around you? Up until how much you can remember. I can't remember much.
Yeah, so we're getting into the screen time talk.
It's my favorite. That was a show with Tim Allen, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I believe that was a show with Tim, the Toolman Taylor.
What's the difference?
Is his last name Taylor? Tim Taylor?
Tim Taylor, yeah. That's a terrible last name for...
It sounds great when you say Tim the Toolman Taylor, but I've never said it just Tim Taylor.
And his son was Zachary Taylor Thomas, so if they used their real name...
Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Zachary O'Brien or something is the other kid.
There was a Zachary. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. So look, when we were kids, I think it's...
You can actually just see how much TV and screen time I had. I just referenced the show from my childhood.
Yeah, that's how we do it. But
anyway.
the concept of screen time, I don't think existed in the public consciousness until after we were teenagers. Am I wrong? I don't
because
think...
I even remember maybe college, because I originally went to college for early childhood education, and this wasn't a thing that was discussed at that era or that time. And there was a whole DVD package called Baby Einstein, where you put your child in front of this and just press play.
Well, the thing for us was don't watch too much TV. Don't sit so close to the screen. You'll go blind or something,
Everything was go blind. If you do too much of one thing, you'll go blind. If you watch too much TV, you'll go blind,
Right. Yeah, sure. Sometimes it happens. Your eyes are the first things to go. Mm-hmm. So there definitely was don't spend too much time when the computer came out, spending too much time on the computer. But I feel like the thought of screen time in general didn't really come about and become a big thing until the dawn of the iPad or the smartphone.
Right, when you can carry kids, everything with you.
It's really the iPad, I feel like, that's the big thing for
I don't
kids.
have any.
Video games too.
Right.
So I have...
we had the Game Boy. That was always on us.
That's true, but also remember the Game Boy, the battery would die after 8 hours.
Right.
And you couldn't play it at night because it's too dark to see it.
But technically,
yeah, there were built-in limitations, and also, the modern screens, and now maybe I'm starting to get into maybe I'll start sounding like the boomer before you get a chance to. Modern phones and games, the screens are designed with these bright colors and LCD. They're designed to make you addicted and all this stuff.
Our screens we couldn't see. We had to go adjust the antenna and get the Y adapter out for the
for us to spend too much time on the internet. It was 10 minutes just to sign online, and then it was 10 minutes to load a page.
And then if somebody was going to make a phone call, that's a whole you had to get offline.
If you're playing a video game, it's there's, someone else needs to use the TV, and also the video game, it's not like you can save, so the cartridge doesn't work. You got to blow on it. I don't know.
You were a kid, how many TVs did you guys have? Up until you got the one in your bedroom.
Yeah, there was always one in the living room, and then at some point my parents had one in their bedroom.
Yeah, that was about the same. Up until the age of 10, we were probably maybe a 1.5 TV household. My parents had a little 8-inch TV in their bedroom, and then we had the big TV in the living room. But around the age of 10 was when I had my own TV. So you're right, it was it was a shared thing. But we were talking about in the case file that the dad is playing games, but there's other people around. That was roughly the same as I'm in the room as a child in my playpen playing with whatever, and my mom's watching the news or a sitcom or whatever. So it's kind of the same deal. There's always a screen going on.
Right. It's a funny thing too, because it's hard for me to imagine having a parent who games.
Right. Yeah, that's a generational thing with our generation that's coming up.
Yeah, even I don't know anyone. Maybe there's a correlation here. I don't know if I know any parents who are gamers. Even the ones our age. aren't really. I don't know. Maybe a little bit. Maybe
I
a
do.
little bit here and there.
There's a few cousins and stuff that are like, they still go on like World of Warcraft or whatever, and kids sitting in the corner doing like they're not neglecting, but they're gaming. But it's the same thing with back in the day, they always showed dad watching football and the kid just bouncing on his knee or something. It's roughly the same thing. It's just a different interaction.
Well, because sports are good.
It's good for the economy, like war and shelving movies.
You gotta teach the kids early about who Taylor Swift is dating.
Right, and toxic masculinity in gaming. It's fine.
Right, and getting concussions and
right,
all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah, for sure. Now it sounds like, I guess this is a fairly regular thing.
Right.
I guess now we should also say at this point, I do think it's at least somewhat relevant to the story, that the parent in this case, Chris, as we've named him, is 17 years old.
Correct. Right.
So this is a young dad. This is a young dad with an 8-month-old kid.
But apparently the mother is roughly the same age.
Yes, they're roughly. Yes, this isn't a.
So it's not like
a Harold and Maude situation.
Right.
This is a Harold and Harold.
Right.
As they call it.
All right.
It's a Harold and Haroldette.
That's a different movie. We'll make that movie.
It's Harold and Maude, not Harold and Mark. Has anyone ever done that before?
Jesus, probably. And they're probably still doing it on Fox.
We don't. This is the whole thing. But that's. I mean, look, this is not the subject of today's case.
Oh,
but
no. Right.
But I don't know. I guess I'll just say, just. If you live in a state where abortions aren't legal, just try to vote and make them legal,
right,
and keep them legal.
Because, can you think about your?
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't know. I don't know these people. Maybe they really wanted to have a kid, and maybe they're very mature and all this, but it seems bad to me.
Let me tell you. You know what I was doing at 17? Not that. I was
playing Smash Brothers without having sex.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
At 17, I was out, maybe occasionally going, riding my bike somewhere. But you know what? I was planning on, I need to finish my SATs. Sorry?
What? Go on. Yeah, your SATs.
I was, practicing for SATs. I was going, I was figuring out what college to go to. Then I was gaming. I was doing stupid kid stuff. I wasn't, raising a stupid kid.
Right. So there's definitely an element to this that I feel like you almost have to approach it from two different angles, because the first angle is kids are, this is a child. This is how fucking old we are now.
These are babies having babies.
A 17-year-old is just a child,
Well, but if you think about it, because we're looking back, we're in our mid 30s now because we're fucking old. What was that? You got something? Oh, there it is. So, looking back at we're not even appropriate for having kids
early
now.
30s. Early 30s.
Technically so am I. I haven't crossed over yet.
Go on.
But I wasn't prepared to have a kid at 17. This isn't 1960, when people were having kids that early, and we weren't prepared for any of that. So of course I would be, kids in the corner, and I'm going to be playing, what game was out? Minecraft. Was Minecraft out when we were 17? No.
No, probably not. You can just say Mario Kart and Smash Brothers. It's the same. Yeah.
Or any of the Pac-Man games, because that would just keep coming. Or the original Pac-Man.
You were playing Pac-Man when you were 17?
They had a 3D Pac-Man for the
Pac-Man World.
N64. Yeah.
That's GameCube.
But they weren't. Was that GameCube?
Or yeah, maybe the first one might have been N64. Might have been.
So I don't fault either. I don't fault the father for gaming, because like I said, you look back in history, you're not going to be just sitting there watching your child the entire time, and you're not going to be constantly playing with the child. If you come home from work, or high school, and he had to go to high school and then raise a child.
It happens all the time.
Anyway, so at that point, you come home from, let's just say, work. Let's just say he dropped out of school and he wanted to get a job. So, you come home from work.
He probably did.
And, you're watching TV or playing a video game, and, little baby, they're 8 months old. They sleep half the time anyway.
Right. Yes.
So it's as long as it seems like he's not abandoning this child. It's not like child is in the backseat of a car and this guy's inside playing video games, or kids just crawling around the house getting into mischief.
Now there is maybe a question of, is this happening? Is this like every time he has the kid?
Right.
Is all the time he spends with the kid gaming on the couch? And is that, I mean, what does that mean? What do we think about that if that's the case? I don't know. I also don't know how often he gets the kid. I don't think he exactly, or at least I missed it.
Let's just assume, a lot of times mom gets it during the week, dad gets it on the weekends.
I also don't know, like, this is probably, they weren't married, I don't think. Right. From my reading of it, it doesn't sound like they were married. Therefore, it doesn't sound like they got divorced. Therefore, I don't think there's any legal, it sounds like they have an agreement between the two of them, just of how they split this up. So it's not like.
And then, does it also mention the living arrangement? Like, where does father live? Does the father live with his parents?
I assume.
So then there's potentially somebody else watching the wee baby.
Potentially, but they're not mentioned. This case only mentions other boys.
Right. The boys.
The boys.
The boys. So, like, fine. You have people over. I'm assuming this isn't like, if he has the baby every weekend, I'm assuming it's like not every hour of the day.
Atta baby eats a boy.
They're ignoring the kid and playing games. And, like, unless that's the case, and, like, 10 years down the line, I'm like, oh, what's your dad's name? Mario. They're going to think his dad's a character.
That's really weird that he wouldn't say dad,
Right.
Yeah. It's hard to be too sympathetic for me to the mom's point of view in this case for all the reasons you've laid out. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this setup. But then I take a big picture view of just the fact that they have this kid at all. But that's not really what that's why I'm trying to feel like we got to kind of look at this from an angle of just in a vacuum, forget about their ages.
Well, watch out what angles you view this from, because that's how they had a kid to begin with at 16.
Yeah, there's some angles are better than others. There's that one they always use that nobody cares for.
Great. I call it the dentist.
Always
Sunny in Philadelphia.
Right.
But
okay, thank you. I was going to ask you to kind of macro this a little bit. What is your general view on screen time? Whether it be, in this case, it's very indirect. So that's almost, I think, the thing that's going to change this case for us. But let's say this kid were playing the game or was actually actively watching the screen the whole time, for instance. Is that something where neither of us are parents yet? I'll speak a little bit to my experience with my experience with my niece and nephew, but I'm curious what your thoughts
honestly,
are on that.
for me, like, I know some people who have kids who are like, you only get to watch TV for an hour a day, then the rest of the time you can play with toys or whatever. For me, as a child, the TV was always a background thing. So I'd be playing with toys and the TV would be there, but I wouldn't be like actively watching the TV because, like we said, there was one TV in the household. So it's like, oh, I don't want to watch Judge Wapner on TV. I'll be playing with my cars, doing whatever. But it's different, I think, when you have a smartphone in your hands, because you put on something just for the child. So it's something to just entertain them. But, like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's weird. I don't think I have an issue with it.
Right. I'll definitely say, I think a lot of times, in general, my instincts when I hear the concept of screen time is a bad thing, or even just screen time, implies that, like, there's only a certain time for it, as opposed to, like, nobody ever says grass time.
Right.
Right.
Well, because it makes TV and screens sound negative.
Right. And,
it's screen time.
My instinct is to say, well, it's not negative. Like, a kid, for example, a kid playing with Lego is not inherently better than a kid playing Minecraft. Lego is the plural is Lego bricks, not a lot of people know that. There technically is no such word as Legos. So, yes, Lego is the proper term. In this
I thought you were just giving your kid one
instance.
Lego and said, good luck. It's like an egg hunt. Go find the rest of your Legos.
All we can afford. It's just
We're 17. What do you want?
Like there's, yes, the idea that anything on a screen is inherently harmful, I don't agree with.
Right.
That said, my niece and nephew are, and they won't watch this, and neither will my sister or her husband. And if they, in 20 years or when I'm dead, if I live that long and they decide to go back and watch this, and I'm sorry, kids, you're fucked up. They're definitely what you would classify as iPad kids. These are kids who maybe they do have iPads now, but for a long time they had like kid iPads.
Right.
And there is a point where you see them on those things all the time, glued to it, looking at stuff. And this is when I do have to start questioning myself. I'm like, am I the old man now, or is there something maybe potentially worrying about this behavior?
Well, I think so what I was talking about is different. Like, watching TV or having the TV on in the background constantly, I think is different than having your neck craned looking down at a screen and no one is really like, yeah, they can monitor it, but they can't really see what's going on at all times. Because, like, for me, a lot of times TV, up until I got a TV in my bedroom at the age of 10, but once you hit the age of 10, all hope is gone. It's family time. Like, we would be watching movies together. We'd be talking, we're cooking and the TV's on. Excuse me. So there's other things going on that giving a child an iPad to shut them up, which is not saying that's what your family does.
Yeah,
but that's what
they do. That's what they do.
It's giving them a drug to shut them up. We're like, I guess when we were 8 months old, it was a rattle. That's what,
Right. Right. That's, you can kind of make that argument. It's like, well, what's the difference? I think part of the issue too is the internet and the fact that especially YouTube is a very dangerous rabbit hole sometimes, because YouTube will suggest the next video. Right. And some of these videos on there for kids are just weird and upsetting, and there's better filters in place, I think, nowadays to try and avoid those. But even still, some of it's, even if it's not gross or weird, it's just garbage.
But
as opposed to like,
they stumble upon us, kids. It's patreon.com/geekson trial. The credit card information is saved.
Please recommend us to the algorithm. We are for kids.
Yes.
No, we're not for kids. We're not for kids.
No.
But if you watch it, you're a kid. I don't know.
Give us thumbs up. Anyway.
But it's like if the kids were if all they were watching was Sesame Street all the time, I'd feel better, because like I trust Sesame Street versus now it's like I said, YouTube. A guy made. Yeah, it could be anything. I could start fucking making puppet videos, and I'm a sick pervert freak.
I know you are. I've seen your puppet videos. What you do to those puppets is, I don't know how you get those stains out.
So all that is to say, I do think there's limits. There's like screen time.
Right.
You got to find a balance. I don't know if in this case, I think this case is a different sort of I don't even know if the term screen time, I think you're saying, maybe doesn't even apply to this case.
Well, because if you think about it this way, if you're using screen time in general, public schools now, there's no more books from people who I know who are teachers. You are using a screen, a laptop, to go to class. You are watching a smart board, which is a screen or a projector.
Right.
So, like, you are on a screen all the time. So giving your child a cell phone versus a TV, I think, is different. Because, think about, when I'm on my cell phone, I could be looking at my cell phone, look at the clock, it's 1 p.m., look back down, and look at the clock again, it's 3. Like, that is a different, and like,
it's lost time. You've been abducted by aliens.
And even with like video games back in the day, like, oh, I'll start this video game, I'll play for an hour. 3 hours later go by, and it's like, oh crap. So it's like it's a different sort of screen time than, watching somebody game or being in the same room. Now, if the mom is worried about the dad is abandoning this child, or the kid just kind of rolling around in its own filth while he's ignoring it, that could be something to think about on the mom's standpoint. If she comes over and just picks up the kid and she just sees the dad playing video games, of course you're going to think, oh, all they're doing is playing games and ignoring the baby. So I am thinking about that part in this thing, but I honestly don't think that's the case, because who wrote the case for this episode? The father, right?
Yeah, he did.
So, like, he's admitting certain things.
Let's also admit that an 8-month-old baby, you can't do that much with that baby.
No.
They're not that fun to talk to or hang out with.
Maybe read a book too. But, like, also, you can be
Sure.
reading the Mario text. Like,
They don't really know what's going on.
Right.
Give them a mobile, give them a little wheel that makes farm noises.
Just make sure their, neck doesn't collapse while they're sitting there. Like,
Don't
there's not much,
step on them.
Don't shake them.
Don't touch them
like
inappropriately.
Mm-hmm. So
don't have them.
Right. Especially at 17, where you just... Anyway. But... Yeah, you're right. Like, if this was like, oh, you have your 10-year-old and you're ignoring it and you're just playing video games, maybe
then you
that's
better
a different
be
story.
playing with the 10-year-old.
Well,
10 years old, you better be gaming with that kid.
But, like, 8 months old, like,
The kids probably sleep half the time.
Unless he is literally ignoring the child and, like, oh, the diaper's been wet for an hour, or, it threw up on itself or it's hungry, stuff like that, then fine, the father is completely at fault. But, like, if the baby's just asleep and there's other people, like, taking turns watching it, it's I don't think it's, like, screen time.
Let the record show.
Our court stenographers.
All right, I'm prepared to give a verdict here.
I'm going to let you go first, because I think I mentioned all my things, but let's.
Yeah, I think this is pretty cut and dry to me. Now, there are some nuances here that could affect the way I view this if we knew more details, mainly around the fact that these are very young parents, and
right.
It's very possible that a 17-year-old maybe doesn't know how to take care of their child that well, and maybe they're not giving them all the attention they should have. But the specifics of this case, I don't think there is anything wrong with an 8-month-old hanging out while video games are being played. Right. That's not going to affect this baby. They're not going to be harmed in any way. I really don't think. And it's not violent content or anything like that, which is, I mean, that's a separate discussion, but it's not that even. So I just think Chris may be guilty for just having a child, but he's
not even at 17, just in general.
Just guilty for not wearing a condom.
Right.
But I do not fault him for this particular act, so not guilty for me.
What's it? Chris, we said his name was? So Chris, I don't,
with
he's
a K.
Chris with a K isn't, shooting up next to his baby. They're not smoking cigarettes. They're not getting drunk because, hey, they're not old enough to do so yet. But, they're not doing harmful things. They're being literal 17-year-olds.
Right.
He's probably in his parents' basement, assuming, just going by 17, what I was doing at 17, and just chilling. The kid's there. They're, you're watching a baby, but you're also playing video games. Same thing as, what is the mom doing? Watching TikToks while the kid's laying in bed? We don't know what's going on. At 8 months old, you have to
probably be shopping. That's my guess.
Probably be shopping. That's B, right? Mm-hmm. But, you have to constantly be feeding the kid, have to be watching it. So I'm sure there's things going on besides just playing video games. And, them being 17, them being 40, it doesn't matter. You'd be playing video games either or. And I would have to say,
right.
What did you said? Not guilty?
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah, so not guilty. 100% not guilty. Oh.
That was very emphatic, not guilty. That's how much he meant it. Yeah, it'd be one thing, and again, it's not, I don't think that the wife's or woman's issue is that he's not paying attention to the baby, but maybe that is. Because I don't think that if he was like, oh, I'm reading a book while I sit next to the baby, I don't think she'd have an issue with it.
Right.
It's the fact that it's a game on a TV, that there's clearly this stigma that exists about that video games are bad for kids.
Right.
And I just don't agree with
And,
that.
like, fine, if the kid was playing the video game or was holding the Switch in its hand at 8 months old, first off, impressive. Secondly, like, maybe I would have a little bit more leadway with, like, oh, maybe your 1-year-old shouldn't be playing video games so early. But it's just video games in a room. There's so much more worse things that this 17-year-old boy could be doing.
Yeah, thank your lucky stars.
I don't know, making another baby while the baby's in the room? You're 17. You're thinking only about 2 things, video games and sex. That's it.
Yeah, for me, just video games, really.
Right. Well, you play the sexy video game, so that covers both things.
Yes, and we both know which ones those are.
Mm-hmm. Pac-Man.
Crash Bandicoot. That's our verdicts on this one. We thought it was pretty straightforward, but I bet there's people out there, maybe parents themselves, who have different opinions about the nuances of screen time, or this case in particular, or maybe there are young parents out there who want to take issue with what we said. You guys don't message us, but everyone else, you can email us at geeksontrial@gmail.com. If you have a .edu address, I'm not opening it.
Nope.
You're too young. We will read your opinions. And you can also submit your own geeky cases, whether they be about video games, board games, music, museums, books, anything that's a little bit nerdy or geeky. If you have some kind of a dispute, we'll settle it for you here on the show. You can also use our form in our episode description. You'll find a link right there. Real easy, all laid out for you nice.
And, if you, we're not going to open those emails about, complaints. That's what the comments are for. Let us know in the comments. Have a nice discussion war about, politics. Right underneath us is where you can get those. If you're watching in the YouTube, I don't know. Is there comments on?
Maybe on Spotify podcasts.
Maybe Apple.
Apple might. Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/geeksontrial. Sounds a few bucks a month. And you can help support the show and all that jazz. Hey, what are you doing over there when you're not having kids? What else are you doing?
When I'm not having kids, I'm having podcasts. And if you like hearing my voice on this one, you can hear it on another one too. It's called The Yerky Boys. We read Animorphs books. Every week a different book. We're on book 25 this week, and the books are starting to get a little bit worse right now. So you can hear me talk about how much fun I'm having reading books I don't like over there.
That sounds amazing. And you can follow me. I'm on Ivan Han or Ivan R. Han on all the social medias, and you can go to my website, ivanhan.com, for all my videos and fun stuff coming out in the future.
I love the future. I'm always looking forward to those things.
The future,
Ivan? The future, Ivan? All right. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out. We always love having you join us, whether you be audio or video. We're in both worlds, so make sure you bounce back and forth. Tell your friends, tell your loved ones, tell your babies, and tell your baby mama. Until next time, I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Ivan Han, and this has been Geeks on Trial.